Getting grayer by the moment. We're here with the Sergeant Major, Command Sergeant Major Shawn Lehr. Warriors of the Past by Army of One. That's what we're listening to. Sergeant Major told me he liked rock music. We picked it out. Going to talk about a few things as we get going here. Turn the music down. I'm going to hide. Sergeant Major, I'm going to hide you for a little bit. You can go hang out for a little while. Take a nap. I'm going to hang with you and turn this music down a little bit and talk about a few things as we get started here. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Heroes I Know, Warriors Live. Tonight, we've got Command Sergeant Major Shawn Lehr, so excited. Hey, thank you to our master-rated donors, Williams, Jackman, Calderon, Hackey, Evans, Cobos, Wino, Ridgeway. Thank you so much. And you know, the senior donors really carry us on their backs. Newton, Diaz, Shrum, Fernandez, Kirkendall, Allen. They've made a long-term commitment to the program, and we really appreciate that. Of course, we appreciate all of our basic donors. Thank you very much. And we're here tonight on Heroes Live with Command Sergeant Major Shawn Lehr, and there he is next to General Steele and General Shelton and Command Sergeant Major Gill and Rogers and Martinez, and oh my gosh, isn't it just absolutely amazing? You know, the times and things that we've had. What are we doing here? I want to talk to you a little bit about it. You know, this started here in 2016. My buddy Maggot got sick and he couldn't remember, and I wanted to capture our stories together. He and I were Jumpmaster buddies, just like Sergeant Major Lehr and I are Jumpmaster buddies together, and we served in the same units together. And you know, and we did a few interviews back then. We did like 8 or 10, and we published them out. We called them Heroes I Know and got it started, but it kind of tapered off. And then in January of 2021, Sergeant Mason got sick, and that's when it all kicked off. So you can read about it on the website. It's right here. Check it out. It's all donation based. It's Joe, you know, and I. And that's kind of what we're doing. And so thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. Again, tonight we're here with Command Sergeant Major Shawn Lehr, and we're going to have a good time. We're telling stories, hopefully, you know, that are timeless. You know, that's what we hope. We hope that these stories that we tell will last a lifetime, and it's not something that is topical or political for the moment. It's about making memories for our loved ones. And if you want to know how to help us, formerforce.com. Go to formerforce.com. We use PayPal as our background, and you know, we really appreciate it. Hey, a couple of notes I made for myself, and I just want to show to you right here. You know, look, everybody's a hero. I love hearing stories. Our stories help connect us with others, and so come tell your story. Go to formerforce.com and sign up for me. Be a guest. Come hang out. It's donation-based. Everybody's got a story. And here's the really big thing. Nominate a hero. You know, how do you do that? Well, you get their agreement. You go, hey, I want you to be a guest on Heroes I Know. Would you do it? And then you go and sign up. And then after you sign them up, then you make a small donation and seal that deal. You go, hey, I've already donated for you to go be on there. And you know, and I've got with us Command Sergeant Major Lehr tonight, and Joe and I are sponsoring you. And so thank you so much for being with us, and we're excited to talk about it. And, you know, here we are welcoming Command Sergeant Major Shawn Lehr. I love you, Sergeant Major. You are awesome, dude. You are... I told somebody that I thought you were going to... Oh, no, dude. I told somebody tonight that I thought you were going to be the hardest guest I ever had, right? The roughest, gruffest. You were the epitome of, like, the Command Sergeant Major Plumley kind of thing, I always thought that. But you were always right, It's you can rest tomorrow, today's the only hard day or something like that. You always were just go, go, go. Tell me about young Shawn.
Well, see, I grew up all over the United States, everywhere. Finally, my family settled down in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin. I have 14 brothers and sisters, and we lived in a two-bedroom house. When I say
What?
poor, yeah, when I say poor, we were dirt poor. I always hear about these people crying about they ain't got a chance or anything. It just makes me sick. Get out there and work, do something. But joined the army when I was 17, and I thought I was joining for 3 years. I could tell you a big lie that I planned on being a sergeant major and all that junk. It would just be, I didn't even plan on going airborne. I had no idea what airborne was. I was a babe in the woods. So I get to Fort Leonard Wood, get done with basic training, and some in-service recruiter says, you'd look good with some jump wings on your chest, and we're going to send you to infantry school. And I said, that sounds really good to me. We're at the camping trip. And then he says, and then you can go to Fort Bragg. And I said, well, that sounds wonderful. I've never been to North Carolina. Let's go see what that's all about. So I go to AIT and infantry, and then I end up in airborne school. This is God's honest truth. I didn't even know we got paid jump pay. I just went to jump out of a plane. I'm telling you, I was 17-year-old and young and dumb, just doing what I like to do. It's like to me, like a camping trip. But it never ended. And so I get done with jump school, get to Fort Bragg, and I ended up in first of the 508. And I had the worst first sergeant I ever met in my life. I never forget him. His name was First Sergeant Stewart. I jumped on one of the Hammerhead barracks just so he couldn't get a hold of me. A little private Lehr. And Sergeant Major Bobby V.T. came down a couple of weeks later. He says, I'm looking for people with high GT scores. Well, I was lucky I had one. So I ended up in third of the fourth within about 3 months of graduating infantry AIT. So I was only in the infantry about 3 months. And from then on, I spent out of 29 years, 10 months, and 10 days, I spent 22 of them in third of the fourth. But the drill sergeant, went to Korea as a sergeant major, and ended up back at Fort Campbell as a sergeant major. But when I got to Fort Campbell, Patterson, Sergeant Major Patterson, told me he wasn't leaving. And so Ridgeway got that battalion. It was always my dream to go back to the third or the fourth as a sergeant major, but that just wasn't to be. And I don't really regret it because I had 244, bunch of great guys. I mean, wonderful people.
Oh
And so,
yeah.
although you can sit there and look backwards and say, "Oh, this other junk," I thought 244 was pretty good for me. I hope I was good for it. And I like 5.5 over in Korea. I was there for 2 years as a sergeant major. I'm pretty sure some people have some different opinions of me over there. I take them to the woodshed over there. They had some issues. Anybody's ever been to Korea knows you got the 90-day syndrome. Well, I only been here 90 days. I don't know what's going on. Well, I'm going on mid tour in 90 days. Well, I just got back from 90 days mid tour. Now I'm ready to leave in 90 days. This is 90-day syndrome. Everything's 90 days. And that's how they thought. And so it's pretty tough for anybody in leadership positions over there. But that's pretty much it. I met my wife in Spring Lake. She was working at Hardee's, and she saw me and she just fell right flat in love with me. She couldn't help herself. We've
What?
been married 46 years now.
You've been married how many years?
46.
Oh my, oh my. You guys are just you're always so awesome together. You're always so awesome together. Tell me, I mean, so you already told me one private Lear story. You got to tell me about when you got in trouble as a kid. Tell me about being, one room, two room house with all the brothers and sisters. Tell me about the pecking order as being a child and stuff. Tell me about that.
Well, I don't really know about all that. I was number 8. There were 7 older than me, 7 younger than me. And the older ones pretty much left the house as soon as they turned 18, is out the door. And of course, then mom would have another one. So
Oh
here's a
wow.
little, here's a little something you will not believe. My oldest sister to my youngest sister, all of us have never been at the same place at the same time, not once. And never
Wow.
will be. 3 of them passed away. But my oldest, 4 of them now. My oldest sister, Sherry, she is about 18 years older than me, so she'd be about 83 or 84 right now, and my youngest sister Jody is in her 30s. And so by the time Jody was born, my sister Sherry was a grandmother. So
Oh
never
wow.
once, not a funeral, not a wedding, never have we all been in the
Oh
same house
wow.
at the same time. But we all know each other, and like with me being in the army, I wasn't there for weddings or things like that. And sometimes for funerals, I had my next younger sister, Barbie. She married a GI, and so at my dad's funeral, they had just been there and flew back to Hawaii. So that's kind of unique for a kid. Um, we didn't really fight a lot. We had arguments, but we didn't fight because mom and dad weren't tolerating that. This was before kind sensitivity showed up. Well, the only piece of military equipment I understood when I joined the army was the pistol belt. You can figure it out from there.
Oh wow. So you were definitely you were an old school guy. You were a rough 'em up behind the Connex if needed be. I
What do you
mean,
mean
I
behind
never.
the counter? What do you mean behind the counter? Why do you have to go that far? Look at the extra steps.
it could be it
No,
could be handled
I
right
can
now.
honestly say there's very few times I ever put my hand on a person. I didn't like that. I didn't. I am not saying I never did it, but if I did it, I was severely provoked. I just didn't think hitting people as a leader, even at a junior level, was the right way to go. I mean, I yelled the snot out of them, but I just didn't really want to get in a fight with them or punch them, or especially you're an NCO and you go up and sucker punch somebody. What kind of work? What kind of deal is that? But
Right,
now
right.
I would get in their shorts. Nothing a couple hundred push-ups wouldn't fix.
So tell me about Private Lear. What did what else did Private Lear? So hold on, you got to paint this picture. You jumped out the window because your first sergeant was chasing you.
Yeah, I got the 82nd on August 8th. And I got assigned to the first at 508. So, how reception was. In fact, our the barracks that I was the first sergeant at, that was a replacement when I got there to the 82nd in 74. Our first sergeant was named Stewart, Alpha Company, first at 508. And we were about 11 or 12 of us come in. Vietnam was still going. And when you go into replacement, the infantry guys were by far the biggest group of folks. And so I guess it was first the 508's turn to get filled up. And Alpha Company, literally, there was 11 or 12 of us walked inside that first sergeants. There were some buck sergeants, some spec fours, but there were about 6, 7 of us were E2 privates. And I was the last one to go through the door. And I had starch khakis. I had my blue robe, my protege. I was looking good. Had my little mosquito wings sewn on my khakis. And I'm standing at the end of that parade arrest. So he gets up and he starts walking down the line. And he's shaking everybody, says, "Hey, my name's First Sergeant Stewart. Where are you from? Georgia. That's nice, blah, 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 and the same meet and greet stuff." So he finally gets to me, and I'm the last guy. He looks at me and goes, "What fucking rucksack did you jump the hell out of? You are a disgrace. You are worthless." And I'm like, "Damn, I'm an E2. I ain't said nothing yet." And he was just in my ass. I mean, and he never got out of it. So we go out in the hallway, and whoever my squad leader was at the time, "Oh, don't worry about that, Lear. That he just want to make sure everybody knows that he's the sheriff." I was like, "All right." So I figured, I got it. And so I'm telling you what, I was close to tears. I mean, he just got on me and didn't get off. So finally, like days go by, weeks go by, and every time he sees me, he is just chewing me out, throwing me on every shit detail you could think of. And so by the time one day, and back then, 74, Vietnam was still kicking. There wasn't a lot to do. Our training was go clean the weapons and get out of here. Literally, go clean the weapons and get out of here. We do PT, and the platoon sergeant say, "I don't know what you're doing, but if you ain't doing nothing, don't do it here. Make sure your weapons signed off by your squad leader and get gone." And so we were going, by 9:30, we were all in the Four Winds, going to the snack bar, whatever, swimming pool, whatever. So one day I made the bad mistake of going up into my room, and the first sergeant came up those stairs and he started beating on my door. I mean, he was hitting it hard. I could see the light cracking through the crack of the door. He was pounding it. He goes, Lear, you little fist fucker. I know you're in there. I'm going to get you." And so there was a little window, and I crawled out the window and on the ledge, and I was right over the mess hall on those old hammerheads. Because if I'd have been down the other end of the barracks, I'd have been done. But I just happened to be right over the top of the mess hall. So I dropped down to the roof and I heard him yelling for somebody in the hallway, go to the CQ and get me the keys. So I knew I had to scat. So I got on that ledge. I pulled that window as shut as I could, dropped down to the mess hall roof, got down over the little fire escape ladder, skinny down, and ran upstairs. I got up there just as the keys were getting up there. Swear to God. And he looks at me and goes, I don't know how you did it. I don't know where. I know you were in there, you little bastard. He goes, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. About a week or two later, Sergeant Major Bobby VT came and said, anybody with a high GT score can come to third to fourth. I said, what am I going to do? You're going to work on a Vulcan. I said, I'll go. Because you want to know anything else? He said, no, when can I leave this place? That first sergeant, I don't know what I did to him, but he took an instant dislike to me and he never let off. I swear, if that guy had his way, he'd have put me in Leavenworth. He wouldn't even chapter me. He just wanted to send me straight to Leavenworth. And I swear to God, Will, I've done some messed up stuff, and I've deserved to get in trouble a few times, but seemed I got away with those. But this first sergeant, I guess he was getting ahead of the curve. Because I know you're going to screw up something in advance, so I just want to get you before you have a chance to get away.
So tell me about
That's how I ended up in air defense.
Tell me about, being airborne infantry, is that the mentality, of, tell me about that.
Dude, the very short time I spent there, I like the infantry. I was kind of made for it. Everything is straightforward. There isn't a whole lot of gray area. Squad leader, team chief, you do what the hell they say, team leader. You do what they say, It ain't like a lot of folks who've never been. You're with those guys. Back then, 6 soldiers. Back when I was in it was 13 people in 4 squads, 56 folks. Really good, quick. They take care of each other. They're close. They know everybody. But what's be in a fight in the morning time with somebody after PT. 2 hours later, sitting in a defect, drinking coffee and joking. It wasn't, so it's pretty. They have arguments, but it's not the same. I don't know how easy to get along with. But I was never going to get to experience that stuff because that first Sergeant Stewart on me, and he was. I've never forgotten his name. Telling me right off the bat. So anyway,
he was on
whatever that's worth. Here, let me tell you. Before you ask me any more questions, Maggot, and little nickname used to be Carbon Copy. They're both of them were section sergeants and team leaders in my Stinger platoon in Charlie Battery.
So who, Maggot, and who?
And me went down the side of a mountain in a Humban Alive shit, but we rode it out to the bottom. We started going down the mountain and it just started sliding, and we just slid with it.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Arabia up in the mountains by Thermomama. That was hairy. We're out there at Thermomama providing air defense for the Royal Family's airport. Yeah. And I get a call on the radio, and Maggot's in my Stinger. We co-located Vulcans and the Stingers together. And so Maggot just ends up in that section, Joe South's. And I get a call on the radio that he had people at gun, he had them down in the ground. The Royal members of the family had pulled up to where we were out in the desert at. These guys have submachine guns. And so Maggot and his gunner pull their M16s out. And almost arrest them. It was hilarious. We finally get over there. A major international incident. And Maggot said, had guns. Yeah, but I love Maggot. There's a reason. But they're both wonderful people. I don't think the wealth make it too much.
Oh my gosh. So what is it about becoming a leader that you remember? Do you remember becoming a corporal or a sergeant?
Oh yeah. I got promoted pretty quick. I ain't probably because I deserved it because there's so few people that were doing what they're supposed to do when I came in. 800,000 man army, and most of them were draftees, and I made buck sergeant when I just turned 19. Made staff sergeant when I was 20. You know, but that isn't important. What was important was that you want to talk about heroes. If this guy was still alive, Arthur J. Huff. That guy was our first sergeant in Delta Battery. He was no more than 4'9", 4'10", but he would wear you the hell out. He always jumped with a cigar in his mouth, and he defied anybody to tell him to take that cigar out. He always had a cigar in his mouth, and he's chopping. He could make a full-grown man cry just by saying, "Oh man, I'm disappointed in you." He was my first sergeant for about 5-6 years, and when I got married, him and my dad took my champagne. My Lieutenant Bob had bought me and my wife a bottle of champagne for our honeymoon. Well, First Sergeant Huff and my father took it and sat on the hearth of the fireplace and talked about what a knothead I was and drank my champagne. Sons of bitches. Anyway,
Oh, I love
but
it.
Arthur J. Huff was one of the first guys that I ever knew, and he was to me like one of the best people I ever met. And I mean, I hope he's still alive. I have my doubts. I haven't been able to get. I know he lives in Fayetteville. I just don't know. And so then the next guy that was probably even more influential, because I wasn't that great of a buck sergeant. And I'd like to tell you I was the finest NCO to ever walk the street, but it ain't so. I wasn't a really good NCO until I met William Tebow Shears. William Tebow Shears put my head in a headlock and he never released it. And he made me do what I was supposed to do. I mean, not in a bad way. I mean, I ain't saying that he's a grudging or anything like that, but he knew everything there was to know. He was the finest, one of the finest people I ever know. I still get in contact with him. He's a wonderful person. And so those two guys there, they're first sergeants, and now I'm just a little buck sergeant at the time, right? Then a staff sergeant. But they probably have more influence on me than any other guys. And then, of course, Wilbur. Now Wilbur's like the senior guy, but he's more like a brother than a dad. So I had three really good NCOs to show me the way, and whatever they did, that's what I'd do. I'd often ask myself, well, what would William Tebow Shears do? And that's what I do. Or I'd say, what would Wilbur Adams do? And I say, I ain't doing that then. I'm going to do what Wilbur would have done. Wilbur told me one time you need to know two people, the best NCO you ever knew and the worst NCO you ever knew. And whatever the best NCO is, you try to be just like him. And whatever that worst NCO did, you try never to do what he did or say the things he said. And so I always thought that was pretty smart, you know. And so I'm sure you can think of a lot of NCOs that weren't very good, maybe because they're training, their education, or they're just bad folks. But you can also, I bet you can think of twice as many good ones that
Oh
were
yeah.
really good.
Some of my best examples were some of the like look, Sergeant Portee was one of my best examples, and his example many times was what not to do. Right, I looked to Portee to tell me what not to do, and I told it to him to his face. Right,
I tried
every
to
day
put
I'm
that
like,
boy in
look,
prison.
do what now?
I tried to put him in prison.
Oh, so I mean, what was stealing comic books and all kinds of craziness. And to this day, dude, poor T, if you hear me, if you can hear my voice, reach out to me, man. I want to see you. I love you, man. He was a he was a
Well,
he was a friend to me, man. He was you know, it's
he's a little bit below me, so I didn't consider him too much a friend. I'm talking about rank,
oh yeah,
and
oh
some of
yeah.
the stuff he had done, I had to deal with it, and it was some pretty bad stuff. So we'll just leave that one alone.
Oh, amen, amen. Yeah, and I'm not privy to any of the really bad stuff. I just don't know. So we'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that. I'm here with Sergeant Major Shawn Lehr. I love it. I love it. And just what a wonderful hero of mine. So tell me about the Vulcan weapon system.
Shot a
Did you
lot of bullets fast. I
did
love that
did
system.
you love it? Yeah, yeah, I
Oh
did.
yes. I mean, it's dated now, but at that time, Colonel Frederickson, he gave me Colonel Fredericks. I mean, he gave me the nickname Mister Vulcan.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I knew the Vulcan. I knew it really well, and I'm not saying I knew it better than everybody else. I just knew I knew it very well, and I got it to where I could fine tune that radar, and I'd bore sight and bore sight and bore sight. And so we'd always compete. And I'd say, how do you hit them so many? You have bore sight. You got a bore sight. But, shot 20 millimeter rounds, had a cyclic rate of 3,000 rounds per minute, 1,000 rounds in low no. You couldn't put enough ammunition in it today. I'm sure the Ukrainians would like to have a couple of them. Oh, yeah. I see Mr. Colonel Williams is in there.
Oh
When I
yeah.
started thinking about doing this interview, I'll save you from having to ask me a lot of questions. I'll just tell you a bunch of bullshit stories.
Yeah,
I
talk to me.
started trying to think of all the good guys. And then I thought, you know what? You can only thought of 50 of them. And there's so many people that were in third to fourth that were just great, fantastic people. I don't care if you argued with them this day and got in a wrestling match with them another day or scuffled with them, because they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing, blah, blah, blah. But by and large, being in third to fourth was just wonderful. I always wanted to go back there as a sergeant major. I did. I got a chance to be a sergeant major for about 4 or 5 months after Wilbur left to go to 108th and before Patterson got there. And so I kind of like got to do it, but not, 100% sergeant major, just acting sergeant major. But that was good enough. But those guys that are in that unit, if you couldn't love them, well, you just ain't right. There's kids in Charlie Battery. I just love those kids. That was my battery. Well, nobody else's battery. If you came from headquarters and you didn't have a hall pass, I was going to scuff you up. Wilbur Adams said, you got to quit beating up my ops and see, I ain't going to beat them up. You quit sending them over there, give me taskings, I'll quit scuffing them up. But I felt sorry for Atkins and Cunningham. They'd come over there and they'd try to get to the XO's office. Like, what the hell are you doing over here? Get the hell out. Go shine your boots. Get a haircut. Get the hell out of my hallway. What the hell's wrong with you? And I know they hated me. I liked them. Don't get me wrong. I like Cunningham. I like Atkins. I like all those guys. But I knew that if I made it difficult for them to bring me a tasking, there was less taskings my soldier had to do. It used to drive First Sergeant Martinez crazy. He's like, how do you get out of all that shit? Because I ain't kind of sensitive like you.
So now we finally admit it. So that's huge. That's huge. Okay,
What do you mean admit it? I never denied it.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. So look, what he's talking about, those that happen to be listening, is you didn't peek your head inside a Charlie battery or go past the Bravo battery, Charlie battery break. You had no reason.
On the floor.
You had no reason to be down here. No, that back the other way. Oh, you went too far. Oh, you did. So you need to get the buffer, I guess, because my guy just buffed the floor here, and and it was awful. It was crazy. Huh?
It wasn't that bad.
Oh wow! I'll tell you this. I will tell you this. Everybody knew not to get next to Rough McGruff. That because you were rah, 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 rah. But that's what it was for. That's what it was for. You didn't want nobody tasking your soldiers. Leave me and my soldiers alone.
I knew I was going to get tasked. I knew I had to do my fair share, but I wasn't going to do one iota more.
I
And
love
it
it.
looked out like this. If I was going to have my soldiers doing details, I have them do details for our battery. But I always had that thing going. I called it battery. I never said battery. It was always battery.
Yeah.
And everybody in my battery said battery. And then when you walk by, you put your arm up like this. And if the other guy didn't get his arm up, you punched him in the chest. And that's Charlie Battery salute. And I tell you what, I can tell you with certainty that those guys loved it. The guys in Charlie Battery, they loved it. I know they mimicked me. You think I'm stupid? I knew they'd go up there and say my little sayings and act like they were me and strut around, do their little head like I do it. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? But guess what? I think I had every streamer you could get. And that's what I wanted. I wanted my battery to be first. It isn't that I didn't love the boys in headquarters. Well, I didn't love the guys in headquarters. I'm sorry. Headquarters, Alpha and Bravo, but they weren't mine. My boys were Charlie Battery, and I was going to take care of them. And one of the best things that we ever did, and I did it every 90 days like clockwork. And I offered to the battalion commanders, both Colonel Younger and I think Colonel Cardini or Colonel Woods, I can't remember which one followed which. We'd have FOT, fuck off time. Every 90 days, I'd have them come in and we'd line up there in the where we're going to do the PLFs. I put one platoon on each side of the pit, and everybody had to wrestle. They had to wrestle for 90 seconds because you couldn't wrestle forever. You had to get back and do showers and shit. So anyway, everybody in the battery had to wrestle somebody. The first person was the commander. He got to pick whoever he wanted out of the battalion, out of the battery. Training NCO, one of the platoon sergeants, it didn't matter, private in third platoon. So the commander wrestled first, then the XO, and then the warrant officer. And then have headquarters on one side, first, second, third on each of the other sides. So a whole 4 sides, everybody had to wrestle once. Somebody always called me out. James Coon called me out one time, put me on my head, and it hurt, but I wanted to let him know it hurt. I think he's the reason my back hurts today. But we had fun. And the best one we ever had was Lieutenant Cook called me out. He was the XO. And, that was a big sucker. He played defensive tackle for James Madison University. He's one of my very best friends in life. And and I never get to talk to him anymore. So if you're out there, Mr. Cook, you call me. You know you're delinquent. So anyway, Captain Hampsey was the commander. And he would blow the whistle, and I'd keep the time. So I gave my watch to Patrick Walker, and he's going to keep time. And Captain Hampsey is going to referee. 5 rules: no kicking, no biting, no eye gouging, no kicking, no biting, no eye gouging. Oh, no scratching, no other rules. And so you had to wrestle. So as soon as Cook's got his hands up in the air, I'm going to get the old man. He's running around like this. He got his arms all up in the air. I look at the captain, and I give him that secret first sergeant commander handshake. I say, blow the whistle. And he blows the whistle, and Cook still has his arms up in there. I tackled that big sucker, put my head right there and drove him in the ground, started stuffing his mouth full of sandpaper, sawdust. I was not going to let Frankie J. Cook get a hold of my old butt, because he would have wore me out. So when I got him, I crabbed him, I let him go. But we'd do that. We'd have a wrestling match, then we'd go to the motor pool, and then we'd go out to McKellar's Lodge. And I always offered Wilbur Adams, if you're listening, you know it's the truth. I offer you to come out there wrestling. He never would. Colonel Williams, I know you're listening, and I saw your little remark. He wouldn't do it. None of them boys, Major Cox wouldn't do it. None of them would do it. They'd see that wrestling going on, and say, let's get the hell away from this shit. Oh, my daughter's listening now too. So hi, Lauren. But those are just great times for me. I'll tell you, I'll make some confessions to you too. I'll be honest with you. I think I was a pretty good squad leader. I know I was a good jump master. I don't know how good a platoon sergeant was. I wasn't a platoon sergeant very long, unless you count my drill sergeant time. I got back in 1989, and by 1990, we were in Desert Storm. And as soon as we got back in early 91, I ended up being the new Delta Battery's first sergeant. So, but whoop your ass. I remember James Coon challenged you there, TW. I didn't see you 25 years later, you're ready to wrestle. Man, but they weren't going to get out in that pit with them boys. They were rough. Anyway, it's good to see you, Colonel Williams. Really good knowing that you're sitting there listening, even though I can't hear you. I forgot where I was at. Something about the troops. Damn. TW still messing me up.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. It's those times and those days and making those decisions and going to McKellar's and building those teams, right? The teams that you built, the Cold Steel family that you were part of building, carries on, way past what you built,
hey,
right?
You need to block TW.
All right. We'll block him. We'll block him from interrupting the conversation. I know. I love it. So you talked about calling it Charlie Battery. I remember those days. Yeah. When were you the first sergeant?
I was the first sergeant of Charlie Battery from 1991 through 1996.
Oh, wow.
5 solid years. I love it, every minute of it.
Do you remember calling me in your office and making me go to the Soldier of the Year board for the battalion in 92?
Vaguely, I ain't gonna lie to you. I thought you wanted to go, but somebody told me you didn't. I don't know why.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, you called me in and said you're going, and I was like okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. It was awesome.
I cannot come close to remembering all the great fellas. Like
Oh yeah,
Sergeant Evans, Craig Evans. I always loved that guy. Tegelenhoff, all my platoon sergeants, Walker, Chavez, Rodney Edwards, of course, and it always broke my heart.
yeah.
He
Thagard
killed
was
himself.
back then.
Thagard. I had him in Korea too. Thagard.
Yeah,
He didn't like the way I said his name, so I always said it the same way. Thagard. He'd look at me like, "Top, you're killing me."
that was
He was
so. That
pretty
was
good.
that was one of the
He's a
things that
guy.
was so cool about you is that when if you found something to pick on somebody about, you love to do it. You love to just jive, people.
I didn't pick on him. I twisted it and made it a positive point for him. And finally, you ever notice that Thagard ended up being proud of it?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Everybody's so
Again,
being
he,
yeah,
he thought at first that I was messing with him, but then he found out that other people picked it up, and all of a sudden he's all happy about it.
yeah, yeah.
I just kind of figured guys are generally I'm the middle of the road for people the way I look at it, and I'm sure I'm not. My opinions are probably a lot different than other folks' opinions, but frankly, I don't really care. So I get something in my head, I'm going to try to do my best to keep through with it. And so those kind of guys like Thagard, he didn't know what to make out of me. He'd been under Velton Locklear and he wasn't sure, so I just made him sure. Here's one for you. If you ever see Frankie Robinson, Scooby Doo, that was his nickname, Scooby Doo. And right now, if he's listening, he's going to be pissed that I said it. Scooby Doo. When he was a little PFC, he come up, Henry Rouse was his platoon sergeant, and we're out in the field, and you ain't supposed to have no flashlight on. And Frank Robinson comes walking up as a PFC with his flashlight shining in Henry Rouse's eyes. Henry said, "I'm going to beat your ass, you Scooby-Doo looking mother hunter." He went after him, Robinson. And from that day on, everybody called Frank Robinson Scooby-Doo.
Scooby Doo.
Even when he was the first on it, hey, Scooby-Doo, he's like, "God dang it, son, man, you don't do that. Come on, man."
Colonel Williams says you picked on Quavis all the damn time.
I love Quavis. If
Uh,
Quavis wanted to do something, he could have beat my butt. His arms are as big as my thighs. He was stronger than I'd ever be. Those guys knew I loved them. TW, didn't you play football for West Point? I never knew you were so damn sensitive. Shoot, those guys knew it.
said you put that spider into that cup on his bunk at McGregor, and we had to call the ambulance. You remember that?
It
Oh yeah.
wasn't a spider. It was a damn scorpion,
Oh, the scorpion.
and it
Okay.
was dead.
Oh,
But
that's great.
Cuevas was a really good guy.
Oh
He's
yeah,
passed on too.
yeah.
So he got
He
killed
was
in a car accident, motorcycle accident.
no way, really?
Dude, that happened the day I left Fort Bragg to go to Korea. He got killed in a motorcycle accident on Cliffdale Walk Road.
Oh, well, okay. I'm talking about somebody else, I guess.
I'm talking about Cuevas and Charlie Battery, Buck Sargent.
I
And
know.
he rode a
I'm
motorcycle. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's the
I'm
Cuevas
sorry.
I'm talking about. There was
I'm
another
sorry.
Cuevas who was the E7, and he
Yeah,
was over
that's
in
who I'm talking
Brooklyn.
about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
I didn't pick on that Cuevas. He was a good guy. In fact, he had the platoon I had when I came back from being a drill sergeant. I took over his platoon. He went over to S3, so I never had no bones with Cuevas.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But here's something that I take great pride in, and it may be false. Maybe I shouldn't, but I do. When I took over Charlie Battery, including myself, there was me, Leobaldo Gertz, um, Paulione Toscano, Captain Sessons, and Lieutenant Blackstone were the only jump masters. That was it, 5 of us. When I left Charlie Battery, there was 19 that were still in the battery, and I just rode them. One of the first things Frank Robinson told me when he was a staff sergeant, and I had Frank Robinson at every rank he ever held. He worked for me at some place or another. He said, "You're never going to get me to go to jump master school. I broke his ass down like a double barrel shotgun, and I would not let him rest. And in fact, if nobody else would have went to Jumpmaster school, I wouldn't have gave a hell a damn. But Frank Robinson was going, and he didn't know it, but he was going. He failed the pre-Jumpmaster test 10 times, and guess what? I sent him 11. I sent him 12. He's going to go. First time he went to Jumpmaster school, he got to the last day doing the Jumpmaster inspection, and he failed. And I thought he was going to cry. He'd come back. I ain't never going back. I ain't never going back. I said, dude, you got the first two goes. 2 weeks from now, you can go down there and give it another shot. So go down there a couple weeks from now, get in the harness a few times, and go around and do that JMPI, and he got it. I ain't saying he cried, but I know he wanted to cry when we pinned those Jumpmaster wings on him. He
Amen.
talked all that shit about never going to be a jump master. And then once he became master qualified, his chest never, that little bony thing, all of a sudden his chest looked like he's a damn WWF wrestler. Yeah, he was really good. He was one of my squad leaders in Desert Storm. And I could tell you a story about that, but it wouldn't be fair to him because he's not here to defend himself.
Take an opportunity to tell me about Desert Storm. You know, rolling out in the middle of the desert, Vulcans, Humvees. You know, it was a crazy time over there, right?
Yeah, I think the worst part was the way we deployed. You know, first all the planes were there and we're all going to load up, and so they started putting people out, and then all of a sudden the planes were gone. They had to go someplace else, go get armored units or something. And so, in August 2nd they called us out. We had Charlie Battery had just came off of mission cycle, and Sergeant Ramirez calls me up 11 o'clock at night. My wife can verify what time it was, and he says, Sergeant Lehr, now we have a recall, an alert. And I said, Ramirez, are you stupid? I said, we're on a support cycle now. And he goes, oh, yeah, that's right. And so he hung the phone up. About 5 minutes later, he calls back. He goes, Sergeant Lehr, the entire division has been recalled. And then I thought about what Colonel Kirkwood had said in formation on that Friday, that morning, August 2nd. He said, at any time we could get called up. So sure enough, we all come in. The cops are out there on 401 and Bragg Boulevard and every other place leading into Bragg. Everything was one-way traffic, no two-way traffic. So we all get in the battalion, and I hook up with my two platoon leader, Scott McHenry. And we have to go down 3rd Brigade for the leaders meeting or whatever. And as we're walking past York Theater, I look up on the billboard. And now all the times I ever wish I had a camera, this was the time I wish I had it the most. On the marquee on York Theater was the movie Arnold Schwarzenegger was in called Total Recall. And the whole division had just been totally recalled. Well, what I mean by the way we deployed was it was so disjointed. I got called out in August, and I thought I was leaving 10 times between then and September. I don't think I actually left until early October. Is that right, Deb? Yeah, I'd been on down to Green Ramp 4 or 5 times with guys in my platoon. Some of my platoon had already gotten out, and some of us hadn't. And so when they cut the planes off in August, I think they cut the planes off on August 13th, if my memory is right. And we didn't. Then we just started one platoon or a section, a Stinger section here or a Stinger team there, whatever. They'd put them on as they could, and then finally, sometime around in October, they got all the planes for the rest of us in 3rd and 4th, and we all went over together. But that was kind of the hardest thing was once we got over there, some of the guys that had been there already were pretty disgruntled. They were not happy. And so the hardest thing for me was to get my whole platoon and make it my platoon, get them away from everything else. There wasn't nobody over there. So, it's most rankingest guy was a buck sergeant, and they were wearing him out. So I just did the same thing I always do. I made them mine. You can get to my guys, you're going to have to come through me. If anybody's going to abuse these boys, it's going to be me. I wasn't about to abuse them. But I had a lot of really good guys in that platoon. I mean, people that didn't spend a lot of time in the Army doesn't make them any less better, like Fiore and Beck and what was that? Greenfield. These guys only did their first term, and that was it. They were getting out. Well, guess what? That's better than 98% of the rest of Americans.
Amen.
They did their time, and for whatever reason they joined, they knew that they were going to be in for 4 years, whatever it was. And then they got out. Well, I'm glad that they were there when they were there, and I don't think everybody has to be in the Army for 30 years to make them a great American, a good citizen. Anybody comes in the service and does his little bit of time does a hell of a lot more than most people can say.
Amen.
So you look back and think of some guy like Beck and Fiore. They're little bitty privates and POCs, but even then, I could. Oh, there's so many others that could just they keep popping in my head, and but like I always remember Fiore and Beck. I always thought, those guys make good platoon sergeants some days because even as little POCs, you could see they had the smarts, they had that little swagger about them, and they were fun as hell to be. I'd never tell them. I'd pop them in the chest every chance I could to keep the little peckers down, but they were good guys. But you couldn't tell them that they had to get swolled up.
So that's a neat thing, right? You had a love language about you. You described a few times where you weren't afraid to. I mean, there were a few times where you popped me in the chest, as
That's a
part
lie.
of.
That's an outright lie. I never did.
But it was part of the love language. You're right about those elbows up, and you learn to you learn the game real quick, and you learn to enjoy the game real quick. It's like you talking about giving Thagard extra love. I love
I
it.
mean,
It's
Thager said he was never going to be a jump master too, but he turned out to be a jump master. But
oh
Thager, you
yeah,
just had to love Thager. And you know who else helped me on that? Me and Wilbur Adams teamed up on Thager. He never knew it. But me and Wilbur Adams teamed up on his little butt. He couldn't
oh
go left
wow,
or right, but I liked him. And, I can't count all the guys in that battalion, the Mage Sergeant Major. But if
oh
you think
yeah,
about it, there's only like 42 or 49, so I think 42 CSMs and a few more nowadays. But that's all there was in air defense. About half of us came from third to the fourth, and it
oh
did
yeah,
change after I retired. You look at those CSM lists and those first artist lists, we dominated it. And it was called the Airborne Mafia. And a lot of people don't know this, but one of the reasons we dominated it was because of Miranda and Adams. Those two guys, they had their shit wired tight, and they made. Now, how many times every one of us had to stand in the hallway with an NCOER that wasn't up to snuff? Well, guess what I did when I became a CSM? I did the very same thing Adams and Miranda did. Those NCRs weren't going to go to division unless I saw them. And where did I learn that from? Wilbur Adams. Oh, Wilbur, I hope you're watching. He made me ride the bus for a week for doing that on the drop zone.
what? Okay,
We
what
did.
now?
Wilbur, you ever watch the old show, Mr. Ed?
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
horse,
yeah.
and the horse would go, oh, Wilbur. Well, we jumped into Don Anna,
Uh
and
huh.
we were sitting in those mounds that they made, and we were doing every drop recovery. And so most of us had already assembled up by the vehicles. And I was sitting there with my back on the Humvee, and I was uh, I was the first sergeant now. So, and I said, I didn't know you stand there. And Doc McNair is another guy. Doc McNair said something to me about Sergeant Major, and I think McNair set me up. And I said, "Whoa, Wilbur!" Adams lit me up. He lit me up in a good way. I mean, he wasn't mean or cruel about it, but he gave it right back to me.
Oh,
So
that's great.
and if he hadn't, I wouldn't have respected him. If you're going to give it, you better take it, and if you're taking it, you better give it back.
Oh, I
So that's
love
just
it.
how I looked at it. Tough.
Oh, I love it.
You couldn't be squeamish. There's a lot of times, uh, I just could go on and on about stories, and I would be so bad at missing so many people. Like one of my best captain that ever, one of the best officers ever worked was Captain Emery P. Sissons. He got out, he resigned his command over some personal issues, but I loved working for him. Captain Underhill, one of the best people you'll ever meet in your whole life. Colonel Woods, Colonel Younger, Colonel Fredericks. You just start rattling them out. Major Williams, don't want to forget him. He's just a ball. I won't want him beat up on me either. He's pretty tough.
Yeah,
When you go to thump people in the chest, you don't want to thump him
I know.
because he'll thump back. But I just didn't come close. Uh, um, Lieutenant Cook and what then? And, yeah, and Captain Bodine. Captain Bodine was almost like a little brother to me. I mean, I still love him. He talks to me every now and then and everything. He's retired now too, retired colonel and all that jazz. But those guys, I'd come to work and it was just so much fun to be in Charlie Battery. And I hope I had something to do with it. But I know
Oh
one
yeah.
thing: those boys that were below me, them sergeants and buck sergeants and staff sergeants, they start personifying the things I said, and they'd walk around the battalion and they'd give those other guys hell. But I just always looked at some of it. Oh, there he is, Craig Evans, one of the best people I ever knew.
Oh
Tell
yeah.
you, Alaska, he got away from me. He didn't. Ramirez,
Uh,
that's the guy that called me on Desert Storm. So, um, no, you can't. I can't remember them all. I mean, I go
oh
back through
yeah.
the memory, and every now and then, like there was a kid named Morris. I can't remember his first name. POC Morris. He's about 6'3", and he used to love to carry the guide on. It's toward the end of me being a first sergeant. I'm getting Chavez is fixing to take my place or something, and so somebody was talking about something or another, and I was just having fun. And Morris was out there. I said, "Come here, you little motherfucker!" And he came up there, and I just knock out 10. I just messed with him to do because I'd already told him I was going to do it, and he knocked out the 10. Well, Cap Bodine comes back in, and he says, "Top." He slammed the door. He sits down. He's rolling his beret around in his hand. He's been a commander about 2 months, and he's rolling his beret around in his hand. He goes, "Do you know what Morris is doing right now? Probably crying. I don't know. What's he doing?" He's running around the battery with the guide on, and he's singing a song, and it basically says, "Top called me a motherfucker. Top called me a motherfucker." He goes, "How do you get away with that shit?" I said, "Get away with what?" He goes, "You called the guy an MF." I said, "What?" He knows I love him. He knows what that means. And he goes, if one of these other first sergeants to do that, they'd be up to see Wilbur Adams right now talking about my first and calling me a bunch of bad names. He goes, "You go out there and they take it as a badge of honor." Well, I don't know if it was a badge of honor or not. I just know that he knew I didn't have no malice intended for him. That kid was like, to me, he was what, if every soldier could be as good as him, we'd have the greatest army that ever existed on this world. Because he was just a really good kid. And that's just like one out of 70 of them.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I can't remember them all. And I run, believe it or not, I run across them every now and then. I was in a gas station off of I-24, and I'm standing in line getting something or another. And I look out, and on the front license plate of this car, I see the Audacia, the crest.
Right.
Yeah, this kid walks in and goes, "You know who I am?" I said, "I really don't. I know you're from 3rd to 4th, though." He goes, "Yeah, I'm Sergeant Green." I said, "Well, how you doing?" He goes, "I ain't seen you in years." I said, "Well, it's because you've
Yeah.
been around in years." But it's just a really good feeling when that happens. It's almost like you just found your long lost brother.
Oh.
You see what Mario says? It's
All
a
right. All
little
right.
bit.
Hey, so listen. So this is a time. This is a chance, an opportunity to do it. I thought I'd do this a good chance to do it. If you're watching this, take an opportunity, if you don't mind, to share this on your social media where you're watching it. If you happen to be watching, please take an opportunity in your own way and share this appropriately now while we're live. We've got an hour almost of Command Sergeant Major Lehr, and we've been laughing, laughing, laughing. We haven't even heard a single story about bass fishing yet. And there's got to be some great stories about fishing. We haven't heard a story really too much about him being a Command Sergeant Major in Korea yet and all the craziness that goes on over there.
Well,
And,
you're probably not going to hear that. I'll be
well,
honest with you. Uh, I was starting to tell you the best jobs I ever had was a squad leader, being a drill sergeant, and a first sergeant. Yeah, I was really proud when I made CSM, and then I got to do the job, blah, blah, blah. But there was never a time in my life that I was more proud and more happy than when I was a first sergeant. I loved being a first sergeant. I didn't know I loved it that much until it wasn't one anymore. Now, as I'm a sergeant major sitting in all these damn meetings and said, "I ought to be out having a formation somewhere. This shit sucks." But you don't know what it is till you get there. And I was proud to make sergeant major. Don't get me wrong. But the closeness and the affinity I felt for those guys in Charlie Battery, I can't even come close to saying in Delta Battery, in Delta. They shut Delta down and they moved me to Charlie then, but I started out in Delta, and that was a wonderful experience. That's where me and Captain Underhill were together. And he kind of showed me the ropes. Believe it or not, a young captain like that showed a first sergeant how to be a first sergeant. But it wasn't so much he showed me how to be a first sergeant. He just showed me how to look at things in a different way. You can't always just, hit somebody in the chest and fix it. Hitting people in the chest was just a bonus.
Just a bonus.
You
Just a
don't think that's
bonus.
something you don't remember none of them boys ever taking me because I was a little slow on the withdrawal? I didn't get mine up fast enough. They were live for that moment. And I know
So,
they did.
look, it was a culture back then. I mean, it was a whole entire culture of we would run down the road and there were members of our unit that would just pray that somebody from the other side would cross the yellow line so that we could hit them with our shoulder and our elbow, dared them to cross into our territory, and they were our teammates. And God forbid they would be a leg unit. Oh my gosh, we're liable to be in
You, you
fisticuffs.
almost, I almost got chaptered because of that.
Tell me more.
You ain't never heard?
No.
I'm Delta Battery's first sergeant, and we have the biggest battery. We're General Support Battery. And all my guys, almost every one of them were bruisers. I had McNair and Walton, Lieutenant Johnson. These guys, Sergeant Vaughn was my commo sergeant. These guys are all power lifters, and they're just big and strong. I can't even come close to naming all of them. So one day we're running down our dens, and we almost get to Long Street. And my guide on my road guard was carrying the supply clerk, specialist Karen, and he's running ahead of the battery. Captain Underhill's up there by the guide on, and one of their guys stepped out and gave him a forearm, knocked him on his ass. And the guy turned around and looked at his formation. He started doing this tee shit. I took off. As soon as I see him hitting Karen, I took off as fast as I could. I nailed him in between the second and third rib, broke him, put him back in the third rank. Man, all hell broke loose. I got back. Wilbur Adams, Miranda was still a sergeant major. And about 10 o'clock, he come down the hallway. He goes, got some bad news for you. What is it? He goes, the division commander, General Trobar, wants to see me and you and the sergeant major and your captain in his office at 1600. Said, oh, shit. He goes, yep, they know it was you that hit that guy. He said they had to put him in the ambulance. He broke his ribs, punctured his lungs. So I didn't hit him all that damn hard. I mean, just a little point in my elbow. I didn't think I'd hurted him. I mean, I knew I'd hurt him, but I didn't think I'd, injured him or nothing like that. So we go up to the division commander's office. Those three go in, and I'm standing out in the hallway waiting. He tells me to report. I go in and I salute him. He doesn't return my salute. He goes, just stand there. When he return, I go, all the way, sir. He does, and he just lights into me. What kind of leader are you? You're a first sergeant. I just put out this memorandum. There won't be no more fighting our dens. And the first thing I got is a first sergeant, blah, blah, blah. And man, I was just sitting there thinking, how am I going to tell my wife? What am I going to do for a living now? My ass is cooked. And so he says, dismissed. And I return and say, all the way, sir, again. He goes, I ain't saluting your ass. Get the hell out of here. I mean, it was gruff. It was rough. And I'm damn near in tears. I'd like to tell you I wasn't, but I was, because I'm thinking of all the bad shit that's about to happen. But I remembered just as I got to his door, he had never read me my rights. Well, that's kind of strange. Usually they get to reading those rights before they start digging off in your ass real hard. Oh, division sergeant major? What was his name? Oh, he was a Hispanic sergeant major.
I
I'll
can't
think of it in a
remember.
minute. So I get to the door and I start to open it, and
Acosta.
Acosta, that's it.
Yeah.
He says, first sergeant, wait for me in your office. I mean, I was one step from getting out of there. And so I go there to his office, and I'm waiting in there, and they're talking and trying to figure out if it's going to be a general court martial or special court martial. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. So I get in there. Miranda comes in. He goes, boy, I know we've been in this spot before, but I don't know if there's anything we can do for you this time. It's pretty bad. And he's got me worked up. Now he just loaded up. I look at him and I think I said, thanks. I just what I needed to hear. And so I'm just standing there, and Acosta comes in and he shuts the door. He doesn't slam it, but he shuts it a little bit more than normal. And he walks behind his desk and he takes both of his hands and he punches his desk. He goes, I just got one damn thing I want to ask you first, Sergeant. I said, yes, Sergeant Major. He goes, did it feel good? I said, it felt fucking great. He goes, get the hell out of here and don't do it no more. I said, all right, then. oh, uh, uh, Miranda, he has this little thing he used to do like that. He goes, yes, like we're out. Man, I don't know how I slid through that one, but I ain't lying to you, Will. I thought I didn't think I was ever gonna actually pin on the hard eight because I was the E7 promotable, and I thought, oh man, this is over, and it just happened in a flash. But yeah, that wasn't nothing. That's one of 100 stories going up and down the Ardennes. I don't even know why they put them policies out there. They knew nobody was going to listen to them. You're in the 82nd Airborne, for Christ's sakes. What do you think this is? The choir boys? You're going to tell these guys to jump out of planes and go kill somebody they ain't never saw before, but they can't fight. What kind of sense does that make? But anyway, and you know what was that old adage? Boys will be boys. Is maybe as a first sergeant I should have done it, but I saw it, and I'd be damned if that guy was going to get away with it. Now, I did not mean to break his ribs. That was just, a bonus.
That was just a bonus. That was a little non-punitive punishment.
That was an 8.5 artillery unit. The big ones.
Oh
So
yeah.
anyway, I just liked having my boys, and then weren't nobody gonna mess with them. Like I said, if somebody was mess with them, it was gonna be me, and I wasn't about to mess with them.
So I had
No,
heard the legend, but I didn't know the full story. So thanks for
what do you mean
sharing
the legend?
the legend of that incident. I'd heard pieces and parts of it, but I hadn't heard the full story. So
Now I kept it short because it was here, but when I hit that boy, I knew at that second I had done wrong because he started fuming up pink and white crap, and I knew right at that moment his eyes rolled back in his head. He tried to start to get up, and he collapsed back.
oh
And the
boy.
guys that he used picked him up, and next thing I know, here's an ambulance, and we kept running. And when we came back, the ambulance was taking off from where I'd hit him. I knew I shouldn't have done it. I ain't gonna lie to you, but I didn't really mean to hit him that hard. I
Right.
mean, it some people call it a lucky punch. I'd call it an unlucky punch.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but it put the scare in me when you got two-star general calling you every name you can think of.
Oh boy.
I'm looking at the top of my head saying, I wonder if Walmart's hiring.
Oh my gosh. Have you seen the slideshow I did for you, the tribute slideshow?
No, I haven't. Oh, wait a second. I got a question that I'm sure for you that a lot
Oh,
of
go
people
ahead.
would like to know.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
the beginning here, you showed these people, I guess they're contributors,
Right.
master and senior and regular donors and whatever.
Right.
What is the deal there? What
All right.
I can imagine you contribute to money.
Right. Yeah.
So
So
what
let
is
I'll
the amount?
I'll put that up. I'll talk it. Thanks for bringing it up. I appreciate it. It's very much appreciated. And so, well, I'm just totally sharing the wrong stuff here.
Well, that's all right. I know is what's the
No.
normal amount that folks donate?
Yeah. So if let me get this right. Hold on.
I got my pen and paper out, so make sure you got it right.
Oh my gosh. So formerforce.com is where you go to donate.
Say that again.
Formerforce.com. Formerforce.com. Let me put it on the screen for us.
Former, like before. Former.
Yeah, before. Yeah, the idea is, yesterday's heroes remember. The idea is let's capture, our stories while we still can, and while we still want to talk about it. And so, I wanted to be donation only, and I never really wanted to put a price tag on it necessarily. But
I don't need you to put an exact price on it. All I need to know is what is the
yeah,
ballpark figure? What's
yeah.
the
So that's an interesting thing. So it seems to be the number to become master rated at $500. We've had some that have given a little bit more in certain situations.
well, how much does it cost to be a strap hanger?
Yeah, right. Senior rated donors are donors that that have committed over time to give a little bit every month or provide expertise or equipment in some way. And then basic donors are whatever you want to give, um, whatever floats your boat. It's no suggested donation, no anything like that. I do say that I think like if we're going to put a retail value on this thing, what do you value these stories at, right? If I had the stories of my grandfather of his exploits in the army like you're telling tonight, what would that be value? What how much how valuable would that be? I don't know. And so I came up with 11.99. There's a box and a coin and inside the thumb drive, titanium thumb drive, we're going to put this slideshow, the tribute slideshow that I've done for you, and then our interview tonight, and it'll go on this thumb drive, and it'll always be there, and your kids and grandkids can fight over it,
Well, if I knew my kids and grandkids were listening to this, I wouldn't use so many bad words.
I love it. I love it. I love it. But that's what it's about. So let me grab up this video and let's watch it real quick. I look forward to it. It'll be a blast. Here we go.
I was actually a drill sergeant when that picture was taken.
Hot shot trucker.
That was a good picture. I didn't know you had so many pictures in the pictures.
Yeah, look at there. Command Sergeant Major Retired Shawn Lehr, everybody. We're here hanging out. Oh my, I love it. I love it. I love it. It is so cool. Thanks for hanging out. What kind of thoughts does that slideshow leave you with?
Well, you had a bunch of pictures of me and my honey when we were young. Then you had some of us when we were in Korea. Then you had some of us at funerals. So I don't know. Yeah, there was one in there where me and my wife had won the tournament, and she was getting the money. She liked
Ah,
that tournament. Now
I
she doesn't
bet.
fish with me a lot, but she fishes with me now and then. She doesn't mind fishing with me, but she really likes fishing with me when we win some money.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Kirkendall, senior rated donor says the camaraderie and stories you can't put a price tag on it. So yeah, I agree. Thanks, man.
Yeah. I don't know some of my stories. I try to keep them as straight as close as I can to the truth, or at least the truth that I remember. And of course, they always come from inside your own head, so you don't see what other people see. But I tell you what, those guys in Charlie Battery, Delta Battery, the whole battalion as a whole. I spent a lot of time. I spent over 20 years in that battalion. And I remember that little song we used to sing, loving every minute of it. Now that I'm not in anymore, whenever I hear that, I think the third, the fourth, loving every minute of it. And you don't realize when you're in a place like that, what is it going to mean to you when you leave? And now I've been gone. I left the division on August 8th, 1996. That's how long it's been since I've been in the division. But I got a chance to go back a couple years ago and do a little speech for one of the guys. He was a lieutenant in my battery in Korea, and he wanted me there at his change of command at Fort Bragg. I said, well, that meant a lot to me. If I
Uh,
must have did something that impressed him or that he liked, other than just rough him up. Just, lieutenants, you're supposed to rough them up. So anyway,
let's can I explore that a little bit? They're lieutenants. You're supposed to rough them up. Okay. I mean, tell me about that. Explain to me that.
okay, this is my mind's eye. I get these lieutenants in, and when I was a buck sergeant and a staff sergeant, I wasn't in charge of lieutenants. I wasn't beside them or anything. I'd always hear them tell the lieutenant, "Listen to what the platoon sergeant says. Do what the platoon sergeant says." Well, you know what? When I was a first sergeant major, I didn't tell them that. I told them just the opposite. I said, you listen to what your platoon sergeant says, you evaluate what he says, and if it makes good sense to you, you do it. But if something starts crawling up the back of your neck that's saying you think this might not be a good idea, you're the only commissioned officer there. And when the XO, the S3, or the battalion commander comes to make the account due, you're the one going to pay that bill. So you better make sure that you listen to your platoon sergeant up to a certain point. But you're the commissioned officer. You outrank me. Don't ever think you do, but you do. It's just if somebody's going to come for an answer to something goes sideways, they're not going to go to the platoon sergeant first. They're coming to you first, and you just started your career. So then I'd make it tough on the lieutenant. I would, not to hurt him, not to dissuade him, not to make him feel bad, but to make him reach down there and pinch those little nuts and stand up and say, hey, I might be a brand new second lieutenant, but and I figured if they had enough nuts to stand up to me, there wasn't no platoon sergeant out there that they wouldn't be able to hold their own with. And a lot of times, I guarantee you, I knew a couple of lieutenants that never made it past lieutenant because they listened to their platoon sergeant. And, you got to feel sorry for those guys. They're young kids too. They might be a lieutenant, but they're still, 21, 22, 23 years old, something like that. And they're listening to a platoon sergeant that's in his 30 and is supposed to be giving them the right direction. Well, you can't be everywhere. So you got to give them what you think. And as a first sergeant, as a sergeant major, I'd tell them, you're the damn lieutenant. You're the commissioned officer. You'd better make sure that you can live with your decision. They're going to want you to do something like maybe, I use an example. They might want to tell you, get some beer out in the field because we used to always have beer in the field. LT, it'll be okay. That shit don't fly no more. So you got to be the one to say no. And it's going to be hard because you're a second lieutenant and you're not sure where you're standing. You gotta be sure where you're standing. Just listen to that guy sitting on your shoulder. He'll guide you right. If if your gut tells you it's wrong, it's probably damn wrong, no matter what your platoon sergeant says. And I used to tell my lieutenant, I told Lieutenant McHenry, I told him straight. I said, LT, said, if you give up this platoon, I'll run it for you. I will wear your bars and my stripes at the same time. I said, but you're the platoon leader, and so you can't let me run you over. I said, you have got to stand up for yourself and you got to make your own decisions. And, just stuff like that. Just don't think just because I'm the platoon sergeant that I'm always going to tell you the right thing. I'm going to try to tell you the right thing, but that doesn't mean I'm right. That just means what I think is right. But you're the one who's got to live with that decision. And Colonel Kirk paid him back in spades for not listening to that advice. Say, sir, you cannot blame one of your squad leaders. You cannot do it. If you say that to Colonel Kirk, he's going to eat you for lunch. So that's what I mean by beating them up. You just you gave it to them straight and hard. I ain't talking about punching them.
That's only yeah. I love it. So explain to him. There's a couple of folks that are kind of talking from the outside. I want to hear two things. I'll let you tell them in your order.
Well, I don't see it on here. I saw some of them.
No, I haven't posted it yet. But one, I want to hear about Cattleman's, right? The Cattleman's incident. I want to hear about that. But the other one, Major Williams is asking about the Vulcan rock. Apparently,
man.
Apparently, here's what Colonel Williams says. Major Williams, we taking something back to brag on the aircraft. Just go with it.
Well, I don't know if that's an exact quote. That might be, like I said, from his mind. I'm going to go over the Cattleman's first, and I'll give you. We talked about Colonel Barrows talked about this last time. I don't remember any damn tickets being handed out for free beer. And if they handed out tickets for free beer, they didn't give me any. They didn't give Velasco any. They didn't give Hilton any. They must only gave it to officers and lower enlisted. Because know I didn't get it. And that was a fun night. I mean, we went there quite often. I was about 20 of those things. So But this one I remember because it got a little out of hand. Guys were up on the chairs. Next thing you know, they're up on the table. I remember Sergeant First Class Corbin stood on a table, and then, of course, he was about half lit. And he wasn't the only one, but he was one of my platoon sergeants, and his big ass hit that table, and that table came apart. So I don't know how we ever got him down off the chairs and all that, but we tore it up pretty bad. And like I told you this afternoon when we were talking about connecting this thing together, I I know they kicked us out for a couple of years, and a couple of years later is how we finished the story. Is yeah, we raised hell, we doing all that shootout party, and everybody's having a great time, and it's a beautiful facility, And I guess on this night, I was unaware of the horse thing until we got back out of Oro Grande. I did not know somebody tried to steal somebody's horse or some shit, and so anyway, I had no part of that. Um, Me and Colonel Cox, we're down there for another shootout. And they said, well, let's go to Cattlemen's. And they said, well, we can't go to Cattlemen's. And I said, why the hell can't we go to Cattlemen's? They say the owner, he don't want us out there no more. And so I said, sir, let me and you ride out there and we'll see if we can't fix this. So Colonel Woods and Wilbur Adams, they were in Fort Bliss for the commanders conference. And so me and Major Cox took it upon ourselves to drive out there to Fabian's. And we get out there and we ask to see the owner. And this guy has the smallest office in the world. I swear to God. There was him, his desk, and two chairs, and there was no room for your legs. You virtually had to stand on the chairs. But anyway, we get in there, and it turns out his name was Dieter. He was some German, I think. I'm not sure, but I heard that he was a prisoner of war during World War II, a German prisoner of war. And when it came time to get repatriated to Germany, he decided I'd rather go to New Mexico. So he never went back. And however it works. Now, if that's true or not, I don't know. I have a suspicion it is, because when you talk to him, that's what I said, Dieter. What part don't you understand, Major? Did I not just say Dieter?
No, yeah, you did. He did. I think he was confirming. I think he was
I
confirming.
know he's a colonel, but I still remember him as a major. I loved him when he was a major, so it kind of keeps me in my eye. No disrespect, TW. But anyway, we get out there, and we're sitting there talking to him, and he doesn't really remember it. He's like, I said, well, we're from the 82nd Fort Bragg, and Major Cox said, hey, I can only attest that we won't be doing the same crazy stuff. Yeah, no, I don't have no problems with it. You just don't break my tables. But it turns out he was upset that night because it happened to be that there was some kind of banquet going on in one of the other rooms for like realtors or loan officers or something. And I guess they just didn't enjoy our brand of partying. They thought we were a little too loud, and we probably used a few bad words loudly. So it all worked out. But I'm pretty sure that he gave us a nice little discount. He didn't make us pay for a reservation. I know that. He just reserved it for us, and usually they required a deposit or something. So I was kind of happy with it. It seemed like it was a big deal, but it didn't take very long to get him to agree to it. I don't know if he was a prisoner of war, but I'd heard that when it was time for him to go back, he wasn't going back. He said, I like it here. So when you heard him talk, you knew he wasn't from New Mexico or Texas. No doubt about it. And the Vulcan rock, that's the whole new Vega stuff. We got down to Fort Bliss, and Wilbur says, I want to take a rock back to Fort Bragg, and it's got to be a rock big enough that we can run by at PT. And we can all hit it. Sorry, I think he kind of like that give one for the Gipper thing like Notre Dame does when they leave the locker room or something. But that was all the instructions she gave us. He didn't tell us how big it had to be or how small or anything. Just get me a big old rock. Well, I knew Sergeant Major Mayo up at 6th Brigade. And I asked him, can I get one of your rocks out of the rock garden? And he said, sure. They're fixing to tear this thing apart anyway. You can have one. So on that Saturday, me and Carlos Martinez, he was the first sergeant Alpha, and I was first sergeant Charlie. We go down there and we get this rock. We pick up this rock, and I'm standing beside the rock, and it's a little taller than me. It's about 6-7 foot tall. Me and Carlos couldn't touch our hands around it. Well, you know how big it is now. And so we go, Carlos, he goes over to DPW, and he talks to these guys that got this great big crane. And they come, they put the chain on it, and they wrap it around. They start trying to lift it up. And it just won't come. Not well, it came, but it took a long time for it to come. And when that rock comes out, it's like 15 or 16 foot long and it's 14 tons. I said, holy shit, this is a big ass rock. So they put it on a flatbed and we take it over Biggs Airfield and we get a hold of the DC 10 crew. We say, hey, can we take this rock back? The guy says, how much does it weigh? He said, it's about 28,000 pounds. He goes, sure, you can take it. I said, are you sure? He goes, yeah, I'm sure. So that's where TW comes in. I think he was the S3 at the time, I believe. I don't remember telling him, don't worry about it, sir, but I probably did. I don't know. I just know one thing, that rock was going back to Fort Bragg. So when we get back to Fort Bragg, I remember the lieutenant. I can still see him. I can't remember the name of the little lieutenant was, a former Marine, and he's working the S4. He starts giving me and Carlos a ration of shit about it. You know how much problem that caused us? Blah, 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 blah. But get that damn rock and shut up. We don't care. So there wasn't a whole lot to that story other than the 6th Brigade Sergeant Major Mayo at the time. He was not really happy with it. I think it was Mayo. I might be mispronouncing his name. But he did not know which rock we were taking. He didn't understand. And so the Japanese had built this garden with all these big ass rocks, these monolithic rocks. And I just took the one that looked best. I said, well, you're going to take one, take the best one. You don't go to Walmart and you don't go to Kmart and steal the blue light special. You know, if you're going to steal something, make it worth stealing. So I just asked him for a rock. He said, sure, go ahead and get one. I don't think he understood which rock I wasn't going in there with legalisms. Hey, get one of them rocks. Sure, go ahead. Well, I did. Carlos was and me. We were both sitting there for that week or so where that rock sat at Biggs Army Airfield. We were kind of wondering if somebody's going to come knocking on the door asking about that damn rock.
Colonel's laughing along with us. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. That is hilarious. Thanks for telling that
They
story.
still have that rock up, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
I got to see that a while back. In fact, that's the last time I got to see Colonel Williams, was right there at that rock at the new place.
Yeah, yeah. It's the new place is a great monument to the old guys, and Command Sergeant Major Paris Williams did a good job of appointing it that the conference room and stuff really looks nice and everything. So what is it that you do now, right? Bass fishing, right?
Well, right now I teach Army Battle Command Systems.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I teach Blue Force Tracker, CPOF, any of that kind of stuff. Bats and hide. Oh, bats and hide. That shows my age. Bat and seat. The biometrics. We have a couple other systems we teach, and right now, for the last couple of years, I've been teaching the VBS system, Virtual Battle Space. Now, I like it. I'm with soldiers every day, teaching everything from simple land navigation to convoy ops to machine gunning, MMGTPI. It's a blast. It's just wonderful. But my main job is to train battalion and brigade staffs on how to use Army Battle Command Systems, or however they, every unit seems ABC, CBS, like damn NBCR or whatever. But they keep changing it. I just call them Army Battle Command Systems and leave it. So it used to be MCS, Mission Command Systems, and they keep changing them. But CPOF is the one I'm primarily taught, Command Post of the Future. I'm lucky. I was working when I first got out of the Army. I was working somewhere, and my old division sergeant major from Korea called me up and asked me for a reference for somebody, one of my platoon sergeants that had gotten out. And I said, yeah, he's a good citizen. I said, what are you asking me all that for? Oh, we got a job of him. I said, well, why didn't you call me? He goes, what do you mean why I didn't call you? I didn't know you wanted to do this kind of stuff. I said, I didn't know you did this kind of stuff. So he got me hired there, had to go through a little interview. Howard Edmiston got me the job, basically. Howard Edmiston used to be a Delta Barry commander, and he was our S3 and all that kind of jazz, too. And Frank Barrows, of course, them two were like best friends forever. So that's what I've been doing for the last 13 years.
All right. All right.
It keeps me alive, keeps me awake. And that, believe it or not, I'm working there one day, and somebody said there's a sergeant major wants to see you. I said, well, what's his name? He says Harold Lincoln. Lincoln. Lincoln told me about the time I threw him off the promotion board.
Oh
You know,
wow.
I didn't know Lincoln. I was in Delta Battery at the time, and he was in Charlie Battery, and I didn't know he had a lazy eye. You know,
Right.
that eye would wander when he's talking to you. He'd be like looking over there. I
Right.
jump. What the hell you look? I'm talking to you. I'm over here. What the hell are you looking over there? Get the hell up and get the hell out of here. So, I had to backtrack on that. But what's funny about it was nobody on the board, none of the other first sergeants, Wilbur Adams didn't ever tell me, Shawn, it ain't that. He's got a lazy eye. And I didn't even know what lazy eye meant at the time. I said, well, I thought he was just being disrespectful. No, but he went come back the next month and I said, I'm just going to give you max right now. I ain't going to ask you no damn questions. I'm sorry about your eye. So years later, Lincoln came back and told me, he goes, for different reasons, but you kicking me off that board is probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. Or
Oh
something.
wow.
Yeah, when we're standing out there, he's probably just making it up.
Oh, Craig Evans says my counseling about cavalier attitude because of a crease on the knee of the uniform. Never forget that day. How about that?
Yeah, he was supposed to bring me those pants so I can inspect them before the promotion board, and he didn't do. And he walked in with the crease on those trousers, and I lit him up. Now, Craig Evans knows that I love him like a son. I mean, he was one of my favorite troopers, but favorite trooper or not, he showed up in that promotion board with that crease of piles. And I know what happened. He couldn't get to the laundromat. And so he grabbed some of these trousers out of the wall locker and they've been hanging on a hanger for 6 months or some shit. And I told him that is the exact thing I told him not to do. I said, if you have to borrow somebody's trousers, you better make sure they're right. Well, he didn't. And so I did what I was going to do. It broke my heart to do it. He might not believe it, but he was one of my favorites, and you ain't supposed to have favorites, but he was. He was one of my favorites. And so when he came in with those boys, I just want to kidney punch him and say, "You're in the thing." It was like like right on me. He came back next month and did fine. But Robert Levis, one of his leaders up in Alaska, told me he told him that story all the time, how I kicked his ass off that board. So yeah, I still see Levis every day. We talk about you, Craig. Well,
Oh
anyway,
my gosh.
I think you've heard enough of my bullshit.
Oh my gosh. So if you could leave us with, give any kind of Lear advice, any kind of I just don't even know what a message to your grandkids, those that come behind you, those that pray for you, those that love you. Is there's something that that you would some message that you might give?
I got one other thing. How do I go back and find post others interviews that you've done with other folks?
Yeah, so if you go to formerforce.com, then there's links to everything there. Links to all the rest of them.
All right,
Formerforce.com.
all right. So I tell you what my dad told me. These are the 5 rules: don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, no biting, tell the truth. That's what he used to get on us about. No lying, no cheating, no stealing, no biting. I don't know why he was against people biting, and tell the truth. Those were his 5 rules, and they kind of seem to make sense. We probably all don't live by those every day. Sometimes we waver a little bit, sometimes a little bit this way or that way. But I think in general, if you follow those, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
I don't know what everybody else's experience was in the 82nd, but like the song said, loving every minute of it. I went from private to command sergeant major, and that's couldn't ask for a better happening. When I joined the Army, I had no idea what I was in for. And when I got to third or the fourth, I had a little PFC. I had no idea that I was going to spend the next 20 some years out of 22 in that battalion. So it means a lot to me. And I mean, you could talk to me for 4 hours and you could give me 5 days to remember all the names. I'd probably still forget more names that I could remember, but I don't forget their faces, just the times that we had, the things that we did. Yeah, we weren't big heroes or nothing. We were doing what we were supposed to do at the time we were supposed to do it. And that's about all you can ask for. When we went to Desert Storm, we did what we were told to do, and so you're just part of a team and you just never know what your part is. Everybody's not the quarterback. And so you just got to do your part. And that's just how I looked at it for all that time at third or fourth. When I left it, I had no idea I was leaving it for good. I thought I'd be back. But that didn't work out. But I'm just as happy because I got to come to 24488 in the 101st, and it turned out to be comparable, but it'll never be the 82nd. I mean, it never. So that's about it, Will. I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a blast. I've seen the little comments those folks are putting at the bottom, little call them sneaky snakes. They know I can't respond to them.
Oh my gosh! Well, you can go on social media. They're on YouTube, on Facebook, and you can respond back. I was hoping maybe you could do one thing. Maybe we could reminisce, and you could pretend, and maybe you could call our battery to attention, and we could sound off together with cold steel, prepared to move forward.
You know, that's still on a lot of my emails I send out. Prepared to move forward. All right, let's see if I can do it. I always had that little neck thing I did. Patrick, ten, home. That's how we'd do it. That's
Oh
how,
yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Patrick. And I just said battery like that just to drive the other first sergeants. I used to piss them off by doing it, and I was always louder than them, so it was just fun, just something to torque them. And I
Oh
could
my
catch,
gosh.
I could catch some of the battalion staff officers were snickering because the other guys couldn't do it. Oh man, I used to love torturing some of those other units. You could
That
not
that's
hang.
That's what you. I mean, that's why you built such a. I mean, that's. I mean, you took what Locklear had done and then handed it off to Chavez. Oh wow! I mean, what a bulldog he is. And oh my gosh, you made Cold Steel what it is today. For sure, for
Well, what
sure.
was Chavez's little thing? All right, hero. And he'd twist the finger like a gun. Hey, hero. I like Chavez. He's a pretty good fella.
Oh yeah.
Locklear was pretty good too. I never met a man more dedicated to the Army than Belton Locklear. Now, me and him went
Oh,
head to head sometimes, but that man loved the Army. And if you couldn't respect that, then you ain't worth two pinches of dried crow shit.
amen.
He might have made some decisions you didn't like or whatever. It don't matter. He did what he did, but I've never met any person, to include myself, and I've known a lot of people dedicated to the Army. A lot of them. None of them were more dedicated than Belton Locklear. In the Army, an inanimate object, an organization, the whole big Army, he loved it. And if you couldn't see that, well, then you're just stupid. Um,
Amen. Amen.
Forrest Gump tells us, right? Stupid is as stupid does. And Ron White told us you can't fix it. So here we go. But
Here we go.
there's a lot of people like Belton out there that don't get the credit they should get. And they're hard people. I mean, I got along with Belton because me and him would go head to head. And I think in his own little way, he respected that. He didn't, if he could walk over you, he would. But I just always admired that he was so dedicated to the Army. I mean, it's something, you know. And I mean, it ran down to his spine. You said something bad about the Army, you were fixing to get it. It's like you just talked about his girlfriend.
Amen to that. Amen to
Yeah.
that. All right, Sergeant Major. Well, I appreciate you hanging out, and it's been a blast. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I love you. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night to you, Will. And thanks again for having me on. Signing
Amen.
off out
Warri-
here.
Warriors of the past, rocking out. I'd just like to thank everybody for coming on and watching and being a supporter of Joe and I and what we're doing. It really means a lot to us that you would watch and be here uh, with us as we endeavor to get these oral histories. You know, it was so much fun to sit and talk with Sergeant Major tonight, wasn't it? And he made us laugh, and I mean, he just embodies those days of running up and down our dens, and it's just amazing the craziness. And you see his fire to be the best. He was going to let those other first sergeants know that we were Charlie Battery. And man, cold steel, prepared to move forward. I love you, Sergeant Major. Thanks so much. Hey, next week we're gonna have a great time. Go check out the website formerforce.com. Formerforce.com. We use PayPal as our donation base. Please come help us. Joe needs to get coins. So thank you. Much love. Warriors of the past, everybody. Thanks, Lauren. We appreciate you being here and watching. Love you, Craig. What's going on, sir? Woo-woo! Mario, where you at, buddy? What's going on, Joe? How about it, Ruben? Where's our ski? Good night.